Boston College can beat Florida State. They just have to take notes from Georgia Tech and Brent Key.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. Thank you all for making us your first listen. And we are the only daily Boston College podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. On today's show, it is game week, folks. We are out of the clearing. We are into football season here, and we have some stuff to talk about as Florida State got stunned. BC's opponent in week one is 0-1, and I'm going to tell you what we learned about Georgia Tech. We can now bring over to Boston College and potentially pull off a second upset of the season. We're going to look at what we learned from camp this year from Boston College and recruiting. Boston College lands a commitment in the class of 2025. I'll get into all of that later. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Football HC. It's a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. So, week 0 kicked off this weekend. Everyone was watching Florida State and Georgia Tech in Dublin, that early game where you had a team, the Yellow Jackets, that were massive underdogs against against Florida State. And as we had been talking about all summer long, spring and winter too, we figured Florida State was going to come out angry. They got, held out of the playoffs last year. This was going to be their revenge tour. They were going to go scorched earth on everybody. What do we find out? They're not as good as they were last year. They lost to Georgia Tech, a team that was multiple digit underdogs on the road. I know it's Dublin, but that's still on the road, right? This showed me something that really intrigued me because Georgia Tech did something that I think Boston College can replicate and cause more problems for the Seminoles. They ran the ball down Florida State's throat. They used a mobile quarterback in Haynes King and kept long, sustained drives going so that Florida State couldn't get anything going. Then, on the defensive side of the ball, they forced DJ Uiagalelei to just basically check down nonstop throughout that game. And they couldn't run the ball. BC can do this. BC can do what Georgia Tech just did. They have, I argue, a bigger weapon that could be a bigger problem for the Seminoles than Haynes King was. Haynes King didn't throw all that much. He had a pretty pedestrian game in terms of Haynes King because he can throw the ball, but it was a running. He ran for 75 yards. They ran for 196 yards against the Seminoles. They really had trouble containing the edge, which, if you have Thomas Castellanos out there, is a major problem for the Seminoles. They're going to have to figure some way out to stop Castellanos because Thomas Castellanos, as we talked to Bill O'Brien this week, he's going to have the green light to be creative with his feet. It's not like they're going to force him to stand back in the pocket and throw the ball all the time. If Florida State struggles up front, they're going to give up some big plays to Castellanos. They did it last year. Remember last year, and that was a better team than what we saw. The spread right now is 17 points. I don't think I would take that if I was a betting person, if I was on FanDuel right now. Yes, Florida State is a better team than BC, and probably they're going to still win. But there's a path here. We talked about the path last year with Jeff Hafley. This game is not unwinnable for Boston College. This is not one of those like you're walking into a buzzsaw here. They're going to have to do some things right, but if things click like they could, you could see an upset here. The big things Boston College is going to need to do. That offensive line is going to play well. And I'm a little concerned because I went to practice earlier this week and I saw Jude Bowery leave practice. He has not returned yet. Hopefully, their starting offensive tackle is going to be back. Now, Bill O'Brien said he should be back soon, so hopefully that won't be a big issue. You also are down Logan Taylor. I think Boston College can handle with Dwayne Alec in for Logan Taylor. I'd love to see Logan Taylor play, but I think Alec would be fine. Losing Taylor and Bowery would be a tough sled there, because you're looking at your offensive line, and yes, Ozzie Trapilo and Drew Kendall have improved greatly since 2022, but it's basically the same offensive line as 2022. Because you would have Alec Conley, Kendall Trapillo, and Kevin Klein out there. That's basically what you had against Rutgers. I don't want to see that happen. As much as I love Ozzie Trapillo and Drew Kendall, that's a tough one. So hopefully Bowery will be ready, and hopefully Logan Taylor will be ready, and you'll have your offensive line going. If they can grind and they can get the ball going, they can beat this team. The bigger question on the other end is, can they hold on to DJU? DJU had one drive in that game where he threw the ball deep and scorched Georgia Tech. But whatever their play calling was, they didn't really go back to it all that often. And he was just stuck dinking and dunking. If they dink and dunk and BC's offense can be explosive like I think they can against this defense, Florida State's going to be in a world of trouble. But if BC's defense lets DJ figure out whatever went wrong against Georgia Tech and get deep passes going, and they're struggling up front against that running game, which looked like, look, I was watching that game, that the first drive Florida State had, that looked like the Florida State team that we expected to come out here and like just blow out everyone they played against, but they just kind of vanished after that. Like, they were running the ball. DJ like was, moving the ball pretty effectively. If Florida State can get that offense going at home, that could get them the momentum that they need. But what the best thing I think BC could do, the thing I would love to see, like the ideal outcome on that, the beginning of that game, is I want to see BC win the toss, take the ball, and score. Because I would wonder how much Florida State could rally after that. Like, go down there, just immediately punch them in the face. Like, hit them now, because they're going to say they're not. They have to be shaken. They had to go all the way across the Atlantic Ocean to get their butts kicked by Georgia Tech. And yeah, you lost by 3 points, but you lost to Georgia Tech. You got your butt kicked. If you go out there and you hit them immediately, that could show what kind of moxie Florida State has. So I think, running with Robichaux, who, given what they struggled with Florida State struggled with, could be a backbreaker in itself, but also getting Thomas Castellanos going too. You do not need to pass the ball all that much against this defense. Just slam it down their throat over and over again. And Georgia Tech showed you can beat them by doing that. BC has a better running attack than Georgia Tech does. What can they do? It's going to be tougher because it's in Tallahassee, but this could be a fun little outcome here, folks. This could be something much more interesting than we expected it to be. And I think this game is going to be very close. We'll get to see what it's going to look like in a week. But hey, congratulations to Georgia Tech for making us believers. And we'll be watching to see what happens when Boston College takes on those Noles next Monday. In a moment, I want to end up, camp ended on Sunday, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that we learned, things that we still are worried about, and everything in between. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Hey, Locked On Boston College fans. I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football HC. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the coach of Boston College? From recruiting players and hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the experience? And here's what I really love about the game. You're responsible for calling offensive plays during the games. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football HC is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you need to. And of course, we have a special offer for Locked On Boston College fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will take your team to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com or look it up on the App Store. Ultimate College Football HC. Begin your coaching legacy today. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And when you're done with this episode, college football is back, and so is the Locked On College Football podcast that kicks off with a live season preview at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 20th, and on Locked On 24/7 YouTube channel. This 4-part series covers each of the 4 major conferences with discussion on ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC teams having a shot at the expanded college football playoffs. You got to check out the ACC one. You're going to have a lot of discussion about this upcoming season. They have new episodes coming up all time, so make sure to check out the Locked On College's 24/7 YouTube channel or Amazon Fire TV, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. And we were wrapping up our conversations about Georgia Tech winning against Florida State and showing how the Seminoles, the team that felt so good that they were so good that they did not need to be in the ACC anymore, goes out and loses their first game to Georgia Tech. They're not against Clemson, not against Miami, Georgia Tech. Credit to Georgia Tech. But Florida State, they're supposed to be an SEC and Big Ten program that everybody wants. And they go out there and they don't look anything like that. Now, we're heading out of camp for Boston College. This is a time for them, for the Eagles to stop talking and for us to stop talking and actually get to the games, get to what is going to make or break this season. And I was at camp for a big part of the summer. I probably went to 12 camps, I believe, out of 20. Did the best I could. Sometimes I have other obligations, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about the staff. I learned a lot about this team. And here is what I learned. They're going to be healthy going into this season. There's only a few injuries to watch for, but the big news on this past week is that their running back room, which scared me about a week ago when they were down to 2 scholarship running backs playing, is basically back to full strength minus Alex Burham. Dontrell Jones returned to practice this weekend. Turbo Richard returned to practice. They have 4 good running backs. As I talked about what they need to do against Florida State, having good running backs is going to do that. They got 4 of them now. They should be in good shape there. The health of the offensive line is my biggest question, as I said in the first segment. I still wonder, I hope Logan Taylor can get there, but he hasn't practiced at all this camp. He's been out with what I believe is, some sort of injury. It looked like, maybe lower body somewhere. And he has not practiced yet. Even if he's available, like Bill O'Brien was saying last Friday that he was feeling as good as he's felt all camp. Is he going to be ready to go even if he is healthy enough to go? I wonder that. I wonder even are they just going to hold him out because he hasn't practiced yet? He doesn't have the reps yet. He hasn't had the chance to get out there. That's a big question mark. I think one of the big takeaways for me is Thomas Castellanos is going to be a lot better passing the ball than I've seen in years past. Saw last year. He's throwing the ball more efficiently. He has more zip and much more confidence in what he's doing out there. Bill O'Brien has taught him a lot, and Will Long and Jonathan DiBiaso has taught him a lot about what's going on out there. That's why he's one of the most improved players on the team, according to the staff. You watch it out there, you see it. He now knows how to. He's identifying the mic. He's moving cover. Identifying coverages, doing all the things you want him to do, and throwing the ball well. You're going to see him moving the pocket. He's 5'9" now. He was 5'10" last year. He's 5'9" now. For a guy like that, you got to move him around, right? You can't just have him standing behind 6'7" Ozzy Trapillo and hoping he can see over him. Sometimes you got to move him around a little bit. So you're going to see the pocket moving. You're going to probably see him rolling out. That's going to happen. But what I don't expect from him is a lot of big mental mistakes. Last week I said he's going to probably throw about 14 interceptions. I think it's because he's going to throw the ball more, less than he just doesn't know what he's doing. I think that's a takeaway from this camp. My final takeaway from this camp: this defense I think is going to be fun. Mitchell Wolf of Eagle Insider was on our show on Friday, and he has a lot of question marks. I've watched them for 3-4 weeks now. And when you watch them at camp and they're consistently battling what I think is going to be a pretty good offense and making lots of plays, there's talent there. Donovan Ezeiruaku is going to have a massive season. I don't know what happened last year, but I think this new regime is going to unleash him to make some big plays. I think the secondary is going to be very underrated, and will make everything more serviceable around them. I think the defense is going to be fine, and that's what you need. You don't need a defense like you want an elite defense, but that's going to take some time, right? You want the defense to improve, and I think the improvement's going to go from being to being good, and I think that's what's going to it's going to happen. Like they were like 84th, I think, last year in points allowed. Get in like the high 40s. And I think that would be a nice season. So I think the defense is going to be looking good. And finally, folks out there, you guys haven't had a chance to really see this coaching staff in action. Their attention to detail, they're asking the players to, to put in their top effort and not accepting anything less than the best is apparent from Bill O'Brien down to the strength and conditioning coach. You have a staff that is going to not make mistakes like they have in years past, that are going to pay attention to things that can be fixed, that can make the team better. And they're going to go into game days with an edge, I think, that might be better than many other coaching staffs. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to be better than Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell is an excellent head coach. I know what happened. They lost. I don't want to bash him because I feel like of any of like the elite coaches, he's one of the, I really like him. But you're going to be going against other coaches later, like Fran Brown, Pat Narduzzi, even Mac Brown at times. I feel like this staff can hold their own against them. This wasn't the case last year. Hafley at times, many times, felt like he was over his head against some of these other staffs. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I feel like they're going to put together game plans and have this team prepared and ready to roll. And that is going to make this team much more competitive and prevent blowout losses more often. We'll have to wait to see against the Florida State game. I cannot wait to see how this team comes out of the gate against a team like that. It's going to tell us a lot. But even if they don't do the best that you think they will, there's 11 other games. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Now, in our final segment, let's get into the recruiting talk because there was a new commitment for Boston College this weekend, one you have been waiting for a while. He finally made his announcement. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Five-Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5-Hour Energy shot so you can check off everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home. When you get your supplies for the project, do not forget the most essential supply, which is a 5-Hour Energy shot. With zero sugar in a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. They have awesome flavors like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. There's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, and get 5-Hour Energy product today, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCFB, and you're going to receive 20% off your order. Offer is valid only until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. I want to thank all of our Eagle nesters out there that are part of our subtext program. I see more and more of you signing up, and you guys have had some great comments today. And I want to read one comment that I thought was really one of our insiders said, "Enjoy the season predictions, AJ and Mitch. Really gets us primed for the kickoff to the season. I think 6-6 is good and successful start for the O'Brien era that will continue to build on success and compete for a conference championship within 3 to 4 years. Love your analysis and insider observations. Looking forward to a fun season. It's been a while. Thanks for the positive football vibes for Boston." Thank you to all of our Eagles nesters out there. And if you have comments and you're part of the program, you can reach me directly. And if you haven't signed up yet, we have a few more promo codes. You can sign up for the next 6 months for absolutely free. I hope you check it out. Details are in the notes. So let's wrap this up by talking about some recruiting. The recruiting news, you expect when BC's football season to start that you don't get much recruiting news. And there was one news item that popped this weekend as Stevie Amar Jr. out of Oaks Christian, California, a 6'4" tight end that the staff absolutely loves, committed to BC after feels like 2 months of waiting. Now, if you have checked out my work on Eagle Insider, I put a crystal ball in for Stevie back in early July, I believe. And, you know, people wait for decisions. And I had felt that he was going to end up at Boston College off of some sources and the information I knew. It just took a while. Now, this is a great get for Bill O'Brien's staff. He had like 35 receptions for like 450 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. He's a 3-star recruit, but he also had offers and finalists of Cal, Baylor, and BYU, and amongst many other programs. I think like Arizona State offered him, and I think he visited there. He visited a few other schools as well. He's a sought after tight end. And this is your second tight end of this class. Remember, Bryce Lewis, the son of defensive coordinator Tim Lewis, he committed back in January too. So BC in this class has really built up their tight end position. You lost Holden Simmons to the transfer portal at some point. It never was officially announced, but from what I've heard, he's in the portal. You added in Ryan Boltwood over last year from a JUCO tight end. Now you added 2 for next year. You're going to lose Kamari Morales as well. Jeremiah Franklin has 1 more year after this year. You need some depth. Getting 2 was very critical. It was either going to be Amar or DJ Johnson out of Louisiana, who I know they liked as well. But you got one that I felt really was popping in terms of a national scale. And he loved BC. So it was a great connection here. California, this is a Will Long production here because Will Long is the tight ends coach. He's the also offensive coordinator as well. But to bring in someone from California out here, this was an excellent commitment for Boston College. Now their class is still in the 50s. They have 23 commitments, and I don't think they're done yet. You know, Amar, I don't think you're going to see a ton of action, but what I believe is going to happen next is they can go over 25 recruits for this class if they want to. They can go over 25 recruits any year now because you have 85 spots now, but it's going up to 105 soon. So you can add as many as you want as long as the school can afford it. I think you're going to see some senior film review as players are starting to play their senior year. You'll probably get a few guys that they're like watching and going, "Oh, I want to offer this kid and this kid." So you might get a few there. And you might also have a few that might decommit too. That's very common. Josiah Victor, defensive lineman from Georgia, he has been getting calls from various SEC programs like Georgia, Florida. I don't know where they're at with that, but you might have some movement there as well. So it's not done. Come over to Eagle Insider. I will continue to give you any news and nuggets I get because I get lots of them. Sign up to become a VIP there. We'll be back again tomorrow. We're going to get, hopefully the depth chart will be in the next couple of days. Usually I think it came in on like Tuesday. So it might be midweek this week because it's a Monday kickoff, but we'll get that going. We'll talk all about it. I'll tell you if there's any surprises, what I expected, everything in between. There's so much football news to talk about, folks. I can't wait to be back here tomorrow on Locked On BC, your team every day.